Welcome to Philly Tech Connect podcast, where Philly's tech minds meet. CEOs, developers, dreamers. This is your space. Each week we explore the journeys of tech innovators. Join us and be inspired.
Hey everyone, Dave here with another episode of the Philly Tech Connect podcast. Today I'm speaking with Matthew Zothner, the co-founder and CEO of Currentz, a platform that helps homeowners unlock savings and monetization of home energy products. The U.S. is in the midst of a massive energy transition, and consumers are often the collateral damage as costs continue to rise and reliability worsens. Currentz makes it easy to understand your home holistically, upgrade energy appliances, and save money in the process. This started with a problem felt by all high energy bills. Matthew, how are you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. I'm psyched to talk about Currents. I'm a customer.
Yep.
I think, I mean, your model is to kind of take a commissions of the savings, which is great. So I don't feel like I'm paying something, but my intention is for us both to win. And so I'm psyched about what you're doing and learn more about it.
Yeah, I think I just looked at your account. You're projected to save $400 this year. We haven't seen the savings yet because we haven't gotten your next bill, but yeah, our newest tool, we're Pennsylvania homeowners. We essentially take a 20% shared savings fee. So you get 80% of the savings, and that's where the $400 comes from.
That's yeah, more than fair. Like it's you don't have to do anything. Like all I had to do was
Yep.
kind of integrate my Stripe account or my energy bill or something
Yep.
very
Your
like took 5 minutes type of thing, and then it just okay, I
Pico account.
forgot
Yep.
about it.
That's the thing. We're trying to make home energy easy for people.
Yeah. So we met through the Philly Tech entrepreneurs community that I've had, for like a couple years now. Appreciated just your general kind of involvement and activity in the Philly tech scene. And I know you bounce around like most of us do to different things. I think you do like Founders Friday and you've been to some PSL events
Mhm.
and stuff. I'm just curious, like I think you're leaving us soon or soonish maybe. So tell us a little bit about your take on the Philly startup ecosystem and, maybe what you're hoping for when you go to LA.
Yeah, so I'm moving to Palo Alto, not because of my job, but actually my fiance is in medicine and got matched there. This is a pretty typical story for a lot of people I've met in the Philly area. They get brought here because of their partners in medicine. They happen to be in technology, and then they realize that there's not much of a startup ecosystem here. But what's happening is that it's actually growing quite a bit. So I got here in 2022, didn't know a single soul living in Philly, had no family here, no friends, ended up just going to a bunch of your events as well as some others and realized that ground community of startups and founders and service providers out there. And it's a really underappreciated fact about the city. We're kind of seen as the little brother to New York City. And, we have half the price of rent and a very walkable city, great restaurants. But the startup ecosystem here is still lagging a bit. And I'm hoping that it starts to pick up because I do love this city. Unfortunately, I'm leaving, but maybe I'll come back. We'll see. And I think there's two reasons why it sort of lacks. One is losing access to talent and capital. So we lose a lot of people from Penn and Drexel because they moved to New York City and San Francisco. And there's just not as many investors as we would hope there to be in the city. So if we can get those two things cranking, I think that Philly ecosystem.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely the brain drain is a big problem. There's so many great like colleges and universities around the city that produce really nice
Mhm.
talent. But then, the obvious place to go, like you mentioned, is kind of, New York, Boston, maybe DC. And then it's a chicken and egg. Like, what are the investors going to come for when there's not, the talent staying there and committed and stuff.
Yep.
But so I've definitely seen that. I kind of hope, yeah, that it is progressing in the right direction. I don't know at what rate. It's hard for me to kind of judge. I've seen some progress, but there's a long way to go.
Yep.
And on the brain drain, I mean, yeah, here
I'm
you
not a
are. You're
great
starting
example.
this. Yeah, that is, you're part of the problem. But that's okay, man. I still wish you the best. I'm excited about what you're doing with Currents. So tell me just a little bit about the platform, kind of why you chose to go in this direction, and then let's talk a little bit broader about just energy as a whole in the US.
Yeah, so the reason I started this company is my parents who live in North Carolina, they electrified their home. So what that means is they got an electric vehicle, they got a home battery because they get blackouts a lot, they got solar panels because they wanted to go off the grid a little bit more. And they found that really confusing to do all that. It cost also around $80,000 to $100,000 to sort of upgrade their home in all these different ways. And I felt like there was probably a better way to figure all this out. On top of it, the Inflation Reduction Act was just announced by the Biden administration, which put billions of dollars into home energy upgrades. So homeowners could get rebates on solar panels, batteries, insulation upgrades, what have you. And so I felt like there was sort of a missing consumer focused platform for all this stuff. There's tons of tools for installers and utilities and all that, but no one was really building the go-to consumer platform for home energy, and I felt like I could do that. And so I took the playbook of NerdWallet, if you've ever heard of that company. They sort of simplified personal finance for people. They started with credit cards, but then they worked their way into lots of other personal finance tools. Sort of took their playbook and currently applying it to the home energy space. So we'll see where it goes from here.
Very cool. Yeah, I'd love to kind of learn more about, the consumer energy, why prices might be up. I feel like it flies a little bit under the radar. Like, so for example, when I go to the gas station,
Mhm.
like I have a concept of like, oh, $3 is a lot, more than what I'm used to. I kind of like I see that number. And so when I fill up the tank, like I have a sense of like things are high or things are low. But when it comes to kind of my month-to-month energy bills, there's like a lot of variability because maybe it's the summer, maybe it's the winter, like you're kind of doing different things, and so you might be running the heat more, and so it's like, is the bill up because I'm using it more, or is the bill up
Mhm.
because the cost for the wattage is just higher? Like I never really kind of know. I just kind of roll with it. I don't know if that's what everybody does, but that's what I do.
Yep.
So I'm curious, kind of like, art, what's going on with consumer energy right now?
Yes. So it's a multi-problem in the country. Basically, I say consumers are the collateral damage at the end of the day because all the costs, excuse me, get passed on to the consumer. So what happens is we're transitioning to renewable energy across the country. We're also upgrading this really outdated infrastructure. So the electricity grid across the US is probably the most requires a lot of upkeep. And not only are we sort of like spending a lot of capex to upgrade all this infrastructure, but the energy demand has never been greater. So we're facing what's called load growth, which is just energy demand. So AI data centers, electric vehicles, home electrification, all these things are leading to a surge in electricity demand, and the current supply cannot meet up with that. And so what happens is utilities go and try to upgrade all their different infrastructure and they pass those massive costs onto consumers as higher rates. So you might only be seeing a 1 or 2%, or excuse me, 1 or 2 cent kilowatt hour increase, but that actually starts to add up over time when you aggregate millions of consumers. So people feel like they don't really have a way to fight back against that, but they do. There are different time of use rates that can lower your bill. There's switching suppliers. There's getting solar, getting electric vehicles. There's lots of things you can do as a consumer to keep your bill low, but people just don't know it. It's very complex. So this is sort of what we're setting out to do, using AI, of course, to make it more personalized.
Yeah, and I've kind of seen these, you get stuff in the mail about, switching your energy source
Mhm.
and stuff like that. And, I'm always kind of wondering, like, well, as a marketer, I'm like suspicious of any type of like sales pitch I get because often I feel like things are not really what they seem. What are some of the things that, yeah, like are really easy to do that kind of give you the most bang for your buck? Like if someone came to you today and was like, "Hey, I haven't done anything to optimize my energy," like what might you suggest?
Mhm. Yeah, so to talk about the point with the energy suppliers. If people don't know, there are around 20 US states with a deregulated energy market. What that means is consumers have choice of who supplies their energy. So if you look at your bill and you live in Pennsylvania, you'll see a supplier line item and you'll see a distributor line item. So most people living in Philly, actually everyone living in Philly, Pico is their distributor, but they can actually switch from Pico to a different supplier on their bill. And that creates a competitive market. So there's hundreds of different energy generation suppliers who you can switch to. But the problem is that there's a lot of less than savory practices happening. So there's a lot of door-to-door sales happening, lots of quote unquote scams where people get asked for their bill and actually get switched without their knowledge. There's tons of spam email and phone calls happening all the time, and so people kind of feel like it's a scam, but in reality, it's a regulated industry, and these companies are just using kind of growth hacking tactics to find more customers. So what you can do is you can switch to a lower rate. But what happens when you switch to a lower rate is it's typically for a short period of time, call it 3 to 6 months. What happens after that low fixed rate is you don't know this because you're not reading the T's and C's, but the low fixed rate gets jacked up to a variable rate. And so that's when people feel like they're getting scammed, but they didn't read the T's and C's. So we've built a tool to automate this problem away, where we switch you to a lower rate. When that fixed rate ends, we switch you to another fixed rate. And so you're never actually getting that variable rate. We also protect you from all these spam phone calls and emails by using proxy email and phone technology, so that we ingest all that email and marketing coming to you and only pass to you what is actually important for you to know. And so those are just a few ways that we've solved the problem. But yeah, there's many ways to lower your energy bill. There's upgrading your insulation if you're losing a lot of heat and cooling, especially in the summer. There's upgrading to heat pumps, which is a two-way AC. Basically, it provides both cooling and heating. That's more expensive in Pennsylvania because natural gas costs are so low here. But there's actually dozens of things you can do that add up to low energy bills.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing because some of the things that you mentioned, maybe like upgrading insulation, or people talk about, I don't know, like replacing windows. I don't know, various things or that you could do, and typically they tend to be a somewhat sizable upfront cost that hopefully pays for itself over time. But when you're usually talking on a scale of years, it might be like 5, 10, 15, and so it's this question of like, am I going to be in this house that long? Am I just upgrading
Yep.
this place for someone else to kind of benefit from? What I like about your platform is it's just kind of like the savings are like immediate, because
Mhm.
basically you're just kind of tapping into whatever is the most competitive source at the time. I mean, what's next for Currentz? What do you guys got planned on the roadmap?
Yeah, so we're trying to build a platform, which means we have sort of your home energy HQ. We have an AI tool that you can talk to and ask questions, whether that's switching to different rates, whether that's understanding solar, or the price of charging your electric vehicle at home. But really, we want to build tools that solve every single energy decision you might make. And that could mean upgrading your HVAC system, water heater, insulation. It could mean how does a certain EV cost over another. Just making it super easy. And at the end of the day, we want to be the go-to consumer energy platform, similar to the NerdWallet of the world, right? Where we can actually help every single homeowner across the country. We're starting in Pennsylvania because it's a great place to start. But today we have 3 tools that are live. 2 are for homeowners with solar. 1 are for just any homeowner out there. So our utility savings tool is for any homeowner or renter. And then we have 2 tools for solar owners to help them sort of reduce the payback of their solar by selling what's called solar credits, so they can start to monetize their solar energy. And then we also have a solar monitoring tool so they can view the different data and solar production on their home. But our next steps are to sort of expand into the general region, so expanding to Ohio, DC, Maryland, and to build more tools for homeowners. So we're looking at home battery tools. We're looking at tools to plug in, your Tesla charger to optimize saving on charging your EV. And there's dozens of other tools down the line that we want to build. But the next step is sort of just getting feedback from customers and starting to expand.
For sure. Well, my feedback is I really like it. I'm happy to be an early part of the journey that I hope lasts for a long time. Matt, for
Yeah.
people that want to get in touch with you or learn more about Currents, where should they go?
Yeah, they should go to getcurrents.com. That's currents, like, navigating the currents in the water. And it's also kind of a double entendre with electrical currents. So that's fun. So getcurrents.com. You can also email us at hello@getcurrents.com. And we're happy to chat about home energy if you're interested. And you can also find me on LinkedIn, Matt Zothner.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Dave.
That's all for today's episode of Philly Tech Connect. Join our community at phillytechentrepreneurs.com. Special thanks to our sponsor, shortlist.io, a digital marketing agency specializing in top-notch link building, content strategy, and web design. Stay innovative, Philly, and see you next time on Philly Tech Connect.